Exodus chapter 14. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Tell the Israelites to turn back and camp near Pi-hahiroth, between Migdol and the sea. They are to camp by the sea, directly opposite Baal-zephon. Pharaoh will think the Israelites are wandering around the land in confusion, hemmed in by the desert. And I will harden Pharaoh's heart, and he will pursue them. But I will gain glory for myself through Pharaoh and all his army, and the Egyptians will know that I am the Lord." So the Israelites did this. When the king of Egypt was told that the people had fled, Pharaoh and his officials changed their minds about them and said, "What have we done? We have let the Israelites go and have lost their services." So he had his chariot made ready and took his army with them. He took 600 of the best chariots, along with all the other chariots of Egypt, with officers over all of them. The Lord hardened the heart of Pharaoh, king of Egypt, so that he pursued the Israelites who were marching out boldly. The Egyptians, all Pharaoh's horses and chariots, horsemen and troops, pursued the Israelites and overtook them as they camped by the sea, near Pi-hahiroth, opposite Baal-zephon.
出埃及记14，过红海，耶和华吩咐摩西说：“你吩咐以色列人转回，要在比哈西路前面，密夺河海的中间，巴力喜分的前面安营。你们要在对面，靠近海边安营。”以色列人这样做，法老必说：“他们在此地迷了路，旷野把他们困住了。我要任凭法老的心刚硬，他要追赶他们。我必在法老和他全军身上的荣耀。埃及人就知道我是耶和华。”于是以色列人照样做了。有人报告埃及王说，百姓逃跑了。法老和他的臣仆对百姓改变了心意，说：“我们放以色列人走，不再服侍我们，我们怎么会做这种事呢？”法老就预备战车，带领他的军兵同去，其他带了600辆特选的战车和埃及所有的战车，每辆都有军官。耶和华任凭埃及王法老的心刚硬，他就追赶以色列人，以色列人却抬起头来出去了。埃及人追赶他们，法老一切的马匹、战车、战车长与军兵就在海边上，靠近比哈西路，在巴力喜分的前面，在他们安营的地方追上了。
As Pharaoh approached, the Israelites looked up, and there were the Egyptians marching after them. They were terrified and cried out to the Lord. They said to Moses, "Was it because there were no graves in Egypt that you brought us to the desert to die? What have you done to us by bringing us out of Egypt? Didn't we say to you in Egypt, 'Leave us alone, let us serve the Egyptians'? It would have been better for us to serve the Egyptians than to die in the desert." Moses answered the people, "Do not be afraid. Stand firm, and you will see the deliverance the Lord will bring you today. The Egyptians you see today, you will never see again. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still." Then the Lord said to Moses, "Why are you crying out to me? Tell the Israelites to move on. Raise your staff and stretch out your hand over the sea to divide the water, so that the Israelites can go through the sea on dry ground. I will harden the hearts of the Egyptians, so that they will go in after them. And I will gain glory through Pharaoh and all his army, through his chariots and his horsemen. The Egyptians will know that I am the Lord, when I gain glory through Pharaoh, his chariots, and his horsemen."
法老逼近的时候，以色列人举目看啊，埃及人追来了，就非常惧怕。以色列人向耶和华哀求，他们对摩西说：“难道埃及没有坟地？你要把我们带来死在旷野吗？你为什么这样待我们，将我们从埃及领出来呢？我们在埃及岂没有对你说过，不要搅扰我们，让我们服侍埃及人吗？因为服侍埃及人总比死在旷野好。”摩西对百姓说：“不要怕，要站稳，看耶和华今天向你们所要施行的拯救。因为你们今天所看见的埃及人必永远不再看见了。耶和华必为你们征战，你们要安静。”耶和华对摩西说：“你为什么向我哀求呢？你吩咐以色列人往前走，你举手向海伸杖，把水分开。以色列人要下到海中， 走在干地上，看啊，我要任凭埃及人的心刚硬，他们就跟着下去。我要在法老和他的全军、战车长身上得荣耀。我在法老和他的战车长身上的荣耀的时候，埃及人就知道我是耶和华。
Then the angel of God, who had been travelling in front of Israel's army, withdrew and went behind them. The pillar of cloud also moved from in front and stood behind them, coming between the armies of Egypt and Israel. Throughout the night the cloud brought darkness to the one side and light to the other, so neither went near the other all night long. Then Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and all that night the Lord drove the sea back with a strong east wind and turned it into dry land. The waters were divided, and the Israelites went through the sea on dry ground with a wall of water on their right and on their left. The Egyptians pursued them, and all Pharaoh's horses and chariots and horsemen followed them into the sea. During the last watch of the night, the Lord looked down from the pillar of fire and cloud at the Egyptian army and threw it into confusion. He jammed the wheels of their chariots so that they had difficulty driving. And the Egyptians said, "Let's get away from the Israelites. The Lord is fighting for them against Egypt."
在以色列营前行走的上帝的使者移动，走到他们后面，云也从他们的前面移动，站在他们后面。他来到埃及营和以色列营的中间，一边有云和黑暗，另一边他照亮夜晚，整夜彼此不得接近。摩西向海伸手，耶和华就用强劲的东风，使海水在一夜间退去，海就成了干地，水分开了。以色列人下到海中，走在干地上，水在他们左右成了墙壁。埃及人追赶他们，法老一切的马匹、战车和战车长都跟着下到海中。破晓时分，耶和华从云柱、火柱中了望埃及的军兵，使埃及的军兵混乱。他使他们的车轮脱落，难以前行。埃及人说：“我们从以色列人面前逃跑吧，因耶和华为他们作战，攻击埃及了。”
Then the Lord said to Moses, "Stretch out your hand over the sea, so that the waters may flow back over the Egyptians and their chariots and horsemen." Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and at daybreak the sea went back to its place. The Egyptians were fleeing towards it, and the Lord swept them into the sea. The water flowed back and covered the chariots and horsemen, the entire army of Pharaoh that had followed the Israelites into the sea. Not one of them survived. But the Israelites went through the sea on dry ground, with a wall of water on their right and on their left. That day the Lord saved Israel from the hands of the Egyptians, and Israel saw the Egyptians lying dead on the shore. And when the Israelites saw the mighty hand of the Lord displayed against the Egyptians, the people feared the Lord, and put their trust in him and in Moses his servant.
耶和华对摩西说：“你要向海伸手，使水回流到埃及人、他们的战车和战车长身上。”摩西就向海伸手，到了天亮的时候，海恢复原状。埃及人逃避水的时候，耶和华把他们推入海中，海水回流，淹没了战车和战车长，以及那些跟着以色列人下到海中的法老全军，连一个也没有剩下。以色列人却在海中走干地，水在他们的左右成了墙壁。那一日，耶和华拯救以色列脱离埃及人的手。以色列人看见埃及人死在海边，以色列人看见耶和华向埃及人所施展的大能，百姓就敬畏耶和华，并且信服耶和华和他的仆人摩西。